Guys, it's Tiger, and so this is Veterans Day 2025, and I want to say I had a nice little lunch at Chili's up in Dayton. Um, they had the free veterans meal. They don't bother asking you for ID or anything because honestly, most veterans don't carry anything. Um, so something that I want to say, and I fall into this category. Um, every Veterans Day, my girls are in fourth grade this year, and they come around. And they said, "Daddy, you got a picture we can take to school of you and in your uniform?" And um, you know, I go back and I look at some of the pictures, and some of them I don't know where they're at, and I don't have many pictures of me in uniform. Um, but what I've found is a lot of the people that I know, you don't know they're veterans. Okay. um, if you went around the people that I was in the military with, from my various units, you got some people that they've always got a hat on. That's whatever it is, whether they were infantry, artillery, or whatever. They're all about, like, dude, why did you ever get out the military? And they'll talk about it like it was the greatest thing ever, but they only did 2 years or 4 years. Um, and yet they left it. They didn't like it, and then later on, it's like, oh, it was the greatest thing I've ever had. But when you look out at some of these people, a lot of your veterans, um, you got to beat it out of them. I'll be honest with you. A lot, I can tell you that I've been around some people a long time, and they like, I didn't know you was in the army. You served? I'm like, yeah, I did 9 years. 9 years, and well, you never talk about it. Just don't. Right? I just don't. And I know I've got some friends, and we obviously we know we were all in the service, and we'll make jokes about it or something like that. But outside of that, I see this morning, some of my friends, they post some old picture. I'd have to dig one up. God, it's been so long. Um, but I would tell everybody out there, um, you know, a lot of your true veterans, they're quiet about it. They're not out to take advantage of a free meal every day. They're not out to, you know, honestly, if they talk about all the benefits, but outside of the VA loan, and if you end up that you're using your VA benefits, you're going to the VA hospital and things like that. That I understand that, and you're around a lot of veterans. You know that they're there for a reason. They are veterans. So when you look out at people, there's a lot of people that's going to be misunderstood because they don't openly talk about being veterans. They're just quiet about it. They're reserved. They're not trying to get that extra edge because, oh, I was a veteran. I get all this stuff because I'm a veteran. Most of them don't. You know, um, I go in places and they're like, well, do you got a veterans discount? I don't worry about it. It's nice. Lowe's will give you, and those things, but there's so many veterans out there, and the sad part is we have a lot of homeless veterans. Um, some people, if you're like myself, you did, the worst thing I ever had in there is, um, when we were in Iraq. The day that the air attack stopped and we went in on the ground. I forget what day it was. It was just all one big day after all. And so we're going across, okay, and we're going slow, and we stop a lot, and we could hear some rounds going off, and you're like, Yeah, I wonder if they can hit us from where they're at. I don't know. You hear the rounds impacting somewhere, and you're like, well, I guess they can. And so you kind of realize that, well, you know what? I'm in a combat zone. And it was a couple days later. I end up. This is the first. This is the first back. This is 1990, and I'm running back to Saudi Arabia. We're taking prisoners in my. I got a deuce and a half truck, and we're hauling prisoners back. And really, the part that rattled me the most is we're going. We're in this little convoy. And I got all these prisoners, and we're going through, and we're seeing all these marked areas, and that's where you know the IEDs were, and so they had some things marked, so we drove through certain areas, and you look over and you're like, didn't I didn't I drive through that the other day, and you sit there and you go, this is for the grace of God that we, because there'd be a lot of tracks going through there, and they have it marked off, and um and so some of these veterans that come back, we all take things differently. Some people can compartmentalize things, and some veterans can't. Some people can't, and they're just not right after that. And I'm saying this because we came back, and I remember, what was it, 108 deaths that we had during that short period, under General Schwarzkopf, and a lot of that was accidents, right? I don't know how many there were during the actually from being attacked or whatever, but there was some there were several incidents around where people got hurt and killed, negligence, being stupid, goofing around, things like that. And as you go into the um, um, Kosovo was next, down in into Croatia, Yugoslavia, and then since then we've had the attack, the issues in Afghanistan. Um, there's been so much, and I was just so blessed that we didn't deal with um, live firefights. I never. Um, I had to honestly tell you a funny story is, we're out there hauling. I'm hauling these prisoners. Me and whoever was with me. It was my truck, so I was always in my truck. Let me tell you, I lived in that truck for a long time and ran prisoners back and forth. Nowadays that don't do that, but we had stopped, and they were on the truck so long, and they were off over there, and the convoy was getting ready to leave, and they're like, hey, and so um, I know what else to do, and we were so comfortable with things that we didn't have ammo in. I didn't have my ammo in my M16, so I was like, okay, and I knew that. I mean, I don't know, we just didn't worry about it really, but you had to keep it on you, So I grabbed my weapon, and I'm yelling at them, hey, come on, get on the truck, and some of them were, and there's a couple, there, and so I'm out there, and I just taken, when you lock and load, you pull, and so I I put it up, and I boom. And you could hear it cock in, right, like there was no round in it, but it sounded like it. And to anybody else, they're all, I'm sure they weren't looking, go, ooh, I wonder if he's got a magazine. Ooh, there's no magazine, no. um and all of a sudden the guys that were on the truck, they're yelling, ah, and one of them jumped off and ran up there and scurried them on. But I never had those incidents, guys. And I'm so blessed because we've seen how many people have come back injured or didn't come back at all, and so I do ask that you keep these guys in your prayers. that are in the service, that are deployed, because these days you just never know when things, something can change in a minute. So God bless you. Uh, excuse me. To all you people out there that are in the service, you have our utmost respect, and you've got our prayers. It's very important what you do, and we are ever so grateful, because we wouldn't still be a free country without the people who give up part of their life to be there to keep these instances out of the United States. So thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful day.